Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Justice Now. My name is Leah Jones, and I am the Education and Organizing Coordinator here at Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. Thanks so much for being here today, y'all. Before we get started today, though, I'd like to do a brief land acknowledgement. We are on a video call, and many of us are joining from different places. We want to remind ourselves that we gather on the unceded land of the indigenous peoples. I am joining in from so-called Richmond, Virginia, and I am currently located on the land of the Powhatan and Chickahominy peoples. If you are unsure of whose land you are on and would like to find out, you can visit native-land.ca to find out. All right, so welcome back, everyone. This is our first episode of the new year, and we are coming in hot. Let's take what we learned and lived through last year and use it to fuel us in this new year. We know that we have yet to return to full normalcy with one extreme weather event after another and one COVID strand, virus strand after another, variant strand after another. So let's use this time now to seek change, this year to seek change and create a new normal, reimagined and rooted in justice, resiliency, and consideration. It's time to act, right? It's time to act for the safety of our environment, our communities, and future generations to come. I would like to have a healthy world for me and maybe even my future children. I don't know, to live on in 50 years. So let's advocate to make sure that this is actually possible. So it's officially a new year with new goals, new opportunities, and new policies. Beginning next week, January 12th, Virginia will open the General Assembly, where laws are changed and created for the Commonwealth of Virginia. For a lot of Virginians, I know, myself included, the General Assembly is something that we learned about as kids in the history books, and over the years, the details of how it works kind of naturally fades to the archives of our brains. So join us today and over the next few weeks, every Friday at 12 p.m., our usual showtime, as we briefly provide updates as well as our policy priorities for this upcoming GA 2022 session. Before we get really into it, I'm just going to tell you all a little bit about our overarching policy goals for this year. First, our first goal is to protect all Virginians across Virginians' access to energy, water, and gas utility services in times of crisis. Strengthen environmental justice statewide by considering environmental justice in our localities and municipalities, comprehensive planning. Protect Virginia's water resources. Increase funding towards water infrastructure. And lastly, to support the reduction of greenhouse gases in the transportation sector and advocate for increased autonomy of transit riders. And now we will be getting more so into the nitty gritty of exactly what bills we're prioritizing. But first, let's take a moment to evaluate the state of Virginia politics and what that means for this upcoming General Assembly session. And to help us do that, we are returning back again with Kadesh Gabray, another awesome member of our VAIPL team. Thanks for returning back to Environmental Justice Now, Kadesh. Happy to see you.
Hi, Leah. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year to everybody. It's always nice to be on the show with you, Leah. So I'm excited for another year of Environmental Justice Now episodes. But today I'm also really excited to talk about the urgency of, the time to act, especially in this very politicized General Assembly session that's coming up in 2022. So to give y'all a little background about what the current state of the General Assembly looks like right now, the House went from being controlled by 5 seats with the Democrats. It is now no longer the majority in the House. They the Dems lost 7 seats. So all 100 seats will be up on the ballot in November 2023. But for this year, the House is now controlled by the Republican side of the House. And we will be expecting repeal legislation and attacks from orgs like the Virginia Manufacturers Association this year because of that control in the House. In the Senate, there is 21 Dems to 19 Republicans. And again, since we have re-elections every year, we have elections every year, all 40 seats will be on the ballot in November 2023. Importance of There's an importance of really amplifying the senators who are climate champions this year, especially because of the fact that we have lost Democratic control in the House. And We also recognize that the new governor that we have, does believe in climate change, but we are really hesitant on to rely on the governor to really be a champion of climate change and climate justice. So we're hoping that all Virginians who believe in justice, who believe in climate justice, especially environmental justice and protecting vulnerable communities, will be able to take action with us. And it is really the time to act because really passing any new legislation or repealing anything already in place will require bipartisan action. So if we really galvanize our Republican climate champions as well as our Democrat climate champions, we can make some change happen.
Yeah, thanks, Kadas. Just going off of that and adding on to it, like you said, the Republicans are holding a lot of the power in the House right now, especially. So we will be on the defense to protect a lot of our EJ standards that we have in place right now already, that may be challenged in the upcoming session. So some things that we need to look out for in this upcoming session is definitely making sure the Virginia Clean Economy Act is still remains intact and untouched, and is something that we are still prioritizing, right? Something else that we will need to be looking out for is the Clean Energy and Community Flood Preparedness Act, that was grouped into RGGI. And this is something that is a bill that came into place, that is possibly on the table for being defunded and taking away this clean energy and flood preparedness fund that is a part of this act. So definitely have to keep eye on that, because of RGGI. Especially because of RGGI, Virginia is now able to access millions each year in revenue from the auction. So that's definitely something that we need to watch out for. Um, Specifically, also with the Clean Energy and Community Flood Preparedness Act, Virginia will not only receive this money, but will allocate the spending in a way that prioritizes justice. That's why these bills are so important. They prioritize people, our vulnerable communities, right? Those who are primarily in environmental justice communities. And it says that 50% of the revenue towards low income energy, that 50% of the revenue will go towards low income energy efficiency programs, and 45% will go towards flood resilience, with a minimum of 25% going specifically to low income communities. And lastly, 5% to create new climate office in the Department of Environmental Quality. So just as we continue to face and experience the negative impacts of climate change here in the state of Virginia, RGGI is something that's crucial to having a resiliency plan, right? So it's important that we continue to uplift it and show our support to make sure that it's unchanged. Another act that we have to be on the lookout for sure, in this upcoming session, is the Virginia EJ Act. This was passed in the General Assembly a couple years ago, and it allowed us to define what environmental justice is and include that definition to all of our planning processes. And it's actually something that we're building upon this year, that we'll be able to share more about in just a few moments. Yes, these are all important acts that we have to be on the lookout for in this upcoming session. So please be sure to take note of those and keep up to date with us. And now, Kadesh, I think you'll be able to tell us a little bit more specifically about what bills that we are prioritizing this year.
Yeah, so one of the two big bills that we're prioritizing this year, our first is utility disconnection protections. We have talked about this issue on our show multiple times. The idea of energy burden, but also utility burden, and even brought up utility disconnection protection with our friends at Voices in a past episode. So please make sure you check those resources out if you want to learn more, because I'll be very brief in my description about what this bill, what these bills will do. So because we recognize that Virginia currently has among the weakest utilities connection protections for customers of any state in the Southeast. This also includes us being behind from states like Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, who have utility disconnection protections. We don't have any type of protection for folks who are very young, seniors, or people with disabilities, and we have very little protection for folks with medical conditions. So we have proposed two bills. The first is expanding existing medical exemptions and delay of service termination. So this bill will allow households where primary residents are 65 and older, 12 months and under, who have a disability or any type of medical condition to have a delayed disconnection by 60 days following a notice of service termination for non-payment. So this bill will also increase the right of a customer to seek delays based on specific medical conditions. And so currently, Virginia has a, um, I guess, a two time allowance in a 12-month period for you to ask for a medical exemption so that your utilities are not disconnected. This bill will amend it to three times in a 12-month period. So in a year, you can ask for protection from disconnections three times. Let's say if it's a reoccurring medical condition that doesn't happen in this worst case throughout the year, at your worst moments, you can definitely seek for protection from losing your utilities. And this includes gas, water, and energy. And the second bill is hoping to expand and even just set the basic protection and limiting terms and conditions for utility disconnections during times of crisis. And this could be for weather crisis, climate crisis, but also just states of emergency unrelated to the climate. So this will limit the ability of electric, gas, and water utilities to disconnect customers from critical services, utility services like gas, water, and electricity during extreme weather events or during periods of crisis, so extreme weather and states of emergency. This bill will also prohibit water, gas, and electric utilities from assessing disconnections, reconnections, and late fees to customers who lose utilities due to late bills or non-payment. So I know currently there are things like reconnection fees, disconnection fees, late fees if you don't pay your utility bills. So it's kind of crazy for folks who don't have the ability to pay already to be bombarded with extra fees that they have to cover. So this bill would stop that from happening, right? Especially because if folks are vulnerable and cannot afford to pay.
Thanks, Kadesh, for
And
that breakdown.
yeah, yeah. And I believe we have another bill that you will cover that will create a big impact for environmental justice as well.
Oh, yes. I hinted at it a bit earlier. So, building upon our definition of environmental justice with the EJ Act a couple years ago, now we are prioritizing including environmental justice in locality and comprehensive planning. So, too often, cities and counties make decisions without taking full stock, of the demographics, historic inequalities, and health impacts, which may have really deleterious impacts on those communities' physical, emotional, and economic health. So, with this bill, it would include an environmental justice strategy and comprehensive planning efforts already taking place by localities, the different localities that we live in here in Virginia. So, this environmental justice strategy would specifically include objectives and policies to reduce the unique or compounded health risks, such as reduction of pollution exposure, the improvement of air and water quality, emergency management, resilience to increased flooding, excessive heat, and other impacts of a changing climate that we've seen even already here in Virginia. The bill will also um, include objectives and policies to promote civic engagement and public decision making processes, as well as objectives and policies that prioritize improvements in broadband internet access, job training, access to public parks and greenways, increased tree canopy, public transit services, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, electrical vehicle charging, and other clean transportation options. So, definitely a big opportunity for us to include a more well rounded view and lens in applying of environmental justice and applying that to all of our localities. So, that is another bill that will be uplifting and prioritizing this upcoming session. Now, Kades, I think you also have some energy priorities that to share with everyone that will be prioritizing this session.
Yeah, so for our other energy priorities, we are, as part of the Green New Deal Coalition in Virginia, we are supporting the New Virginia Economy Act, and NVEA, formerly known as the Green New Deal Act, as well as really supporting the SEC reforms and utility regulation bills to really support an affordable energy clean energy transition. And if you want to learn more about these bills, please watch our preview that we've done a few days ago. And you'll learn more about these bills and what they intend to do, as well as we'll also share more resources later on in this show to really see what our other priorities look like. Leah, do you want to talk about our briefly about our water priorities?
Definitely. Like Kadesh mentioned, I'll be keeping it brief to just tell you all real quick the water priorities that we'll be supporting. And please go back to our GA preview, the recording. You will be able to find it later in just a moment when we share our list of resources where we give more of an in depth explanation of and details about the bills that we'll be supporting. But as far as water goes specifically, we will be supporting bills that are the first bill that is ensuring resilience in Virginia's flood prone communities. And this ties back to the Reggie and the Community Flood Preparedness Fund that I mentioned earlier at the beginning of our episode. And the second bill that will be supporting this upcoming session related to water is about upgrading wastewater treatment in Virginia. So Virginia's largest combined sewer overflow system is located actually in the city of Richmond, where 24.5% of its residents are below the poverty line and already pay some of the highest wastewater rates in Virginia. So both of these bills, much like our others, all relate to justice and community resiliency for those that are most impacted. So if you would like to hear more details about those bills, please once again be sure to check out um, our our last two GA previews where we talk more about our GA priorities. And Kades, I think now will be able to share more specifically about how to access those resources.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. So our number one big resource will always be our e-news and our action alerts that we send via the e-news. So please stay in the loop by getting daily action opportunities and weekly updates on General Assembly via our email list. And you can join that on the screen. It should pop up as a big screen on the screen. So please make sure you click on that bit.ly link as all caps and sign up for our e-news so you can stay in the know about what's happening in GA in regards to environmental justice priorities. Um, And our second biggest update is our website. We have a VIPL policy webpage for General Assembly 2022, and that will also show up on the screen. And that page will have our resources as well as our resources like our fact sheets, our updating document, legislative document that we keep with all of our resources in there, as well as any type of other resources and events that are coming up and related to General Assembly 2022. And the third big resource that we have for General Assembly 2022 is our updating legislative 2022 document. This is where we include our bill number, bill title, who's the patron is, and where it is in the General Assembly currently. So if our bills start in the House, we will monitor its movement from the House all the way to the Senate during crossover, and all the way until it is signed as a law by the governor. As well as we will be creating a VIPL General Assembly toolkit that is coming soon. Everything else is already done and available for you to look at, but our action toolkit will come soon as we know more about the bill number, as well as where our bills are heading to in regards to the committees that they will be at, so that you can do targeted actions to those specific legislators. So please be on the lookout for those resources. And if you are super interested about the General Assembly and really understand how laws really do have a rippling effect on everyday folks, and you're super pumped to help us out, you can volunteer with us by writing an LTE or an op-ed on our policy priorities. And you can contact me at my email or email us at our general email to really work with us on talking points, as well as really the juice part of writing an LTE. So we can definitely help you really get your voice heard. As well as I know the Legislative Informational System website, LIS. Last year, because of COVID, we had a virtual General Assembly, and we were able to make public comments virtually as well as submit written comments virtually. So if that is the case, please, you know, get on that website and still do the same. However, I know this year's everything's kind of in the air as to what exactly will be happening in regards to how GA will be conducted because of COVID and the multiple variants that are coming up. We will be letting you all know what's happening and what GA will look like, not only on this show next week, but also in our e-news and our social media. So please make sure you sign up to our e-news, because that will be the first way that's the first form of our initial contact. And Leah, do you want to share about our upcoming events?
Yes, definitely. So we do have a couple of events coming up already. Like I said, we're starting the year coming in hot. Uh, we we do have an event coming up next week. A big event with our partner organization, Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, hosting Days for All People. I think I guess that is, if not next week, the week after, January 18th, we will be hosting two workshops, both on our policy priorities. So we'll be talking about our disconnections bills again, but also equitable transportation. So if you would like to attend those workshops, but also learn more about advocacy this upcoming General Assembly session, maybe even attend lobby meetings with some state legislators, please sign up to register to attend Days for All People, and it is all virtual now. So you can join from the comfort of your Zoom screen at home or wherever you are. We are also looking forward to the VCN Lobby Day that's coming up on February 1st. So mark your calendars for that. And if you join our e-news, we'll be sure to include the link to register for that VCN Lobby Day as well. But lastly, I would like to share an exciting event that we have coming up to open us up for the General Assembly session. We are hosting a walking meditation event next week, next Wednesday, January 12th, at from 2 to 2:30 p.m. So if you are in the Richmond area and you are free from 2 to 2:30, please come by and join us on our walking meditation. It should bring us, center us, and bring us peace before we enter the chaos of General Assembly. So thank you all so much for tuning in this episode. I think that about wraps us up for this week. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next week and keep up to date with us by joining our email list. Once again, you can see it here in our comments and on the screen. We'll hope to see you again next week with GA starting, where we'll be providing updates on all of the priority bills that we just mentioned here, and maybe even along with some others that are hitting the scene. So, thank you. Bye, everyone.